What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Perichoresis Daily Dance. This is part 6 of this series that we're doing here at Perichoresis called Prayer. For some of us who have memorized the Lord's Prayer, this is the section where we, a lot of times, traditionally would say, "Hallowed be thy name," or your name. And in a little bit more contemporary of a translation, it's, "May your name be kept holy." Now let's just take a second, just a moment, to let those words marinate. May your name be kept holy. Let's just take a moment and let those words marinate. What does that even mean, may your name be kept holy? The translation of this word holy, literally in the original, is this idea of different or set apart. Your name, God, like who you are, it's different, it's set apart. The relationship, like the understanding of who I am compared to you, it is totally different on a totally different scale. I believe King Solomon had this idea when he sat down and he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. In Ecclesiastes chapter 5, this is what he says. Ecclesiastes 5, starting in verse 1, "As you enter the house of God, keep your ears open and your mouth shut." Okay, this is interesting. When we typically think of prayer, we think of prayer as something that I go to God and I start speaking to God. King Solomon shows up and says, no, you're getting it wrong. Actually, when you show up to worship, listen first. Don't talk. He says, "It is evil to make mindless offerings to God. Don't make rash promises and don't be hasty in bringing matters before God. After all, God is in heaven and you are here on earth. So let your words be few." It's this idea that we have this God. Like, let's just take a moment and think about this God for a second. The only reason you have eyes to watch this video, you have ears to hear my ridiculous voice, the only reason you are alive, breathing, your heart is beating, is because we have this huge God that speaks and galaxies exist, who creates galaxies that are 1 trillion light years wide. We talked about that before. We have this huge God, and then we show up in prayer and we start talking to God, and it's like, are you serious? Like, what do you think you could possibly say to this God who knows more about you than you know about you? This God is so different on such a different scale. His name, it's different. It's holy, it's separate, it's unique. So understand, may your name be separate. May it be kept holy. May we keep God and who He is separate and different, because He is just so much bigger and so much greater and more powerful than we can fathom. So may your name be kept holy. So we have to do that. But the thing that He also says is, but your name. Names are interesting. I'm pretty sure you have been told by your parents or someone, or maybe you looked it up on Google one time, like what your name means. Because names, the meaning of names are really important and they're really significant. It's interesting, the word that is used in Hebrew for God's name. Back in Exodus, there's this guy named Moses. He's 80 years old. He's a shepherd. He's out in Midian. He's doing his thing watching sheep. And then this fiery bush shows up and starts speaking to him. First he realizes that it's burning, and then it's not actually being consumed, so that's a trip. And then it speaks, it calls him by name, Moses. Gets his attention, he approaches, and you know the story. God speaks through the bush and says, "Hey, take your sandals off, you're on holy ground," right? I don't want anything getting in the way between you and me and what we're about to do together. It's beautiful. It's this whole love story thing. We've talked about that before. And then Moses, he doesn't really want to do it. In fact, he has 3 arguments that are excuses back to God why he doesn't want to lead God's people out of Egypt. And so he goes through. But one of those arguments, one of those questions, those issues from Moses is, "God, I don't even know your name." And God speaks and tells Moses his name. He says, "My name is Yahweh." Now, there are several different words in Hebrew that are used in Scripture to describe God's name, but Yahweh is unique. And I know it's not like this in English, but you have to understand in the original, the mindset, the message that they would have understood when they heard or saw this name. What's interesting is, and even in English, we have this, right? Like we have names like David. Well, there are different ways to pronounce or to say David, 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 whatever. But what's interesting is the variance in how we say and pronounce and understand David. It isn't in how it begins, and it isn't in the middle section, and it's not even in the end, because those are consonants. Consonants are understandable. We know how to say them. There's not a lot of variation in how to pronounce a consonant. We know the duration of how long to say or pronounce a consonant. But the difference between David and David, for example, it's not the consonant, it's the vowel. Because vowels are a little bit more mysterious. Vowels, is it David? Is it David? Like within the vowel, there's a little bit more wiggle room or mystery as to how you say it. It's a little less understandable. That's how it is in English. It's exactly the same, and even more so in Hebrew. And so for Moses, when God says to Moses, here's my name, Yahweh, what's amazing is that every single letter in Hebrew of this name is a vowel. So Moses' mindset from the beginning would have been, there is so much mystery. There is so much I cannot even fathom or understand about you that I can't even begin to understand even your name. It's so mysterious and so much bigger. It's different. It's set apart. It's holy. So Jesus says, when you pray, our Daddy, who is so big he exists and lives in heaven, but his name is so big and powerful and mysterious, may you keep it separate. We can't even begin to fathom even how to pronounce or even to say his name. That's just how big he is. May your name be kept holy. Hallowed be thy name. Stay tuned tomorrow as we continue the Lord's Prayer.